Hello and welcome to Capes, Cowls, and Crusaders. I'm Kat, joined by Ernesto El Pinguino. How's it going?
Oh, avoiding orcas at all costs here in the Caribbean. The iceberg is somehow still floating, even with all the heat. And there's a hurricane coming. That's the fifth one this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it pays to be the crime boss of Gotham somewhere.
uh, Fascinating. That's cool. Well, I guess as usual, you kick off the day with a bit of Batman news.
I do. Let me see if I can pull it up real quickly. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, I'm pulling up my notes. I did on the laptop, but one of the reasons why we started a little bit late is because my computer decided to do a last minute software update reset, and it tells you how long it's going to take, but I tend not to take that at face value because it might take longer. But I did manage to write a note on my phone, which I can pull up right here. I'll just run through these real quick, and then we can just discuss whatever stands out. Lupita Nyong'o will be starring in Nolan's next movie, Christopher Nolan.
Hmm.
So that's exciting. I think that'll be the first time she's working with him. Red One, the Dwayne the Rock Johnson, Chris Evans, Lucy Liu, and what's his name?
Uh,
J.K. Simmons as Santa Claus is going to be the new holiday movie kicking off the holiday season, I guess you could say, the cheery holiday season, not the horror movies that we've been getting lately. And on a $250 million production budget, like I said, production, not including marketing, it is expected to open around $30 million domestically, which is not very good, especially with that price tag. Yellowstone's newest season, or the following season, premiered this Monday. It addresses the Kevin Costner sized hole since he left the series in order to work on his Horizon saga. I haven't seen the episode yet. Please do not spoil it in the comments because I am going to be watching it later this week. That is greatly appreciated. One of the stars from Full House, David Collier, revealed he has stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Very sad. Hopefully he gets treatment and is made comfortable. A documentary of Ted Turner's broadcasting legendary status in the world will be premiering on HBO Max at some point, maybe at the end of the year or starting next year. A trailer for The Amateur starring Rami Malek, Rachel Brosnahan, and Lawrence Fishburne has been released. And in the world of comic books, Zatanna will be getting a brand new series in 2025. Will it be ongoing? Will it be a miniseries? Who knows? But that is the roundup.
okay, yeah. And on the Batman side of things, I found out that apparently last year on September 19th, 2023. There was another version of this, part one of the Nightfall trilogy. This
Mm,
one's 640 pages. Apparently, the one published last year is 960 pages, and it adds a storyline called the Crusade. I'm not familiar with it. Uh,
probably one of those tie-ins that at the time was not considered necessary.
yeah, and then coming up on February 18th, 2025, we'll have a reprint of Batman Nightfall Night Quest, which is part two. This one is 655 pages. The new one will be 976 pages. It
God
includes
damn.
a storyline called The Search.
God damn. That is a lot of pages.
Yes, extra 320 pages per edition, and each for just the one storylines for the well, I mean for the one storylines each. So again, I don't know what this content is. I don't know how it affects the rhythm of the story, if it makes it better or worse. And I assume the part three will get a revision because let's see, 17 months apart, so you can expect part three of the Nightfall trilogy if they all get extensions to have a July 2026 publication date, perhaps if that's what they're doing.
Yeah, it's
It seems like
possible.
getting hardcovers with new artwork,
Hmm.
so priced at $125 for the upcoming one, and the other one you can get for like 107 now. But
The
uh,
ones you have right now, how much did they cost you separately?
I got these as gifts in 2012 when they were brand new, so it was probably
Is the tag on the back where the barcode is?
the oh yeah, here we go. So okay, so this is actually cheap. So given this is keep in mind this is 2012 money. This was $34 for part,
Okay.
and part 2 of 3 was also $34. But the hardcover versions in today's economy, with the new one that I mentioned, the one that's nearly 1,000 pages, is $125 brand new. Unless you get part 1 now, it's been out for a year and a half. The expanded version is $107 now on Amazon, but $125 for the brand new upcoming one, which is insane to think about. And these are printed on old, newsprint.
Oh yeah, I can tell just by looking at over here the color of the pages.
Yeah, I wish they would print it in if they'd done like a proper laminate. Maybe the new one is. I haven't actually seen anybody flip through it, but
But
that'd
it
be
kind of
nice.
gives you an appreciation with how it used to be.
Yeah, that's true. I kind of like how when they laminated Morris's, it's because with the newsprint you
Yeah.
gotta be really careful because you could damage that easily.
Oh, of course. I own the separate issues of the Nightfall series.
Oh, really? That's a lot of issues
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I mean, I don't have all of them. Like, definitely do not have all of everything that happened before and after the man who broke the bat. But I do have the core essential ones, and I know I have the collected volumes of what happened after, especially when was it Azrael? He's the one who took over as the Batman, and he's the one who kind of like wreaked vengeance on Gotham in the name of Batman. And I think, if I remember correctly, when Batman came back into fighting shape, he had to shut it down, like really get involved. So, it's kind of like it kind of comes full circle every few decades because the same thing happens in the Forever Evil arc where Bane takes over Gotham as his territory, but then when Batman leaves the matrix of the invasion, he has to tell Bane, "Hey, thanks for keeping an eye on things, and I'm gonna have to punch the crap out of you."
Hey, DJ Play Nice, stopping by to say hi. Catch you on the replay. Have an awesome show. Thank you very much, and rock.
Thank you. Go Rock.
Um, yeah, so I guess that's what's going on the publishing side. So that'll be
Yeah.
interesting. I'll look up some old reviews to see, from people to find out what the differences are.
Yeah,
If it does have
I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be one of those things where they want to promote some storylines that they cut at the time because they didn't think people would like them, and maybe they want to promote them in this one. Maybe it's something that has nothing to do with Batman or anything Nightfall, but it's some stuff about, hey, while this was happening in Gotham, this was happening in these other books. Like everybody was feeling the effects of a Batman-less Gotham.
right, like the original versions I got here, maybe more streamlined to Batman's story, whereas the
Yeah.
expanded maybe for the stuff that affects the Bat family.
And we might get like one of those like prologues or epilogues from Jim Lee because he's the current head of DC Comics. We might get something from James Gunn. We might get something from Matt Reeves. There could be a lot of stuff. Maybe they might make some new stories for these collected editions just to make it, pop.
Yeah, and if anybody has actually read the part 1, because again, the part 1's been out since September 2023, this new version, and chime in and tell us. But that's the comic. Have you heard any other comic news for the show, Ernesto?
No, not yet, but we did get some comic book trailers recently. We've been getting some previews. We know the Captain America Brave New World is coming. We got a much better in your face look at Red Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
I wish he had the mustache, but I know we can't get everything we want. Because imagine a Red Hulk with a mustache. That sells money right there. Um,
Maybe.
and the trailer reminds me of Winter Soldier. It's got that vibe, and it's pretty much confirmed that this takes place in the current canon because if you've seen the trailer, you can see the hand of the dead god in the background. So it's definitely taking place in current timeline.
Yeah. Oh, and then other comic news I forgot to mention. Denzel Washington just said in an interview that a role is being written for him by Ryan Coogler for Black Panther 3.
Oh, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
I
And that
wonder
he's
he's
going to be
I wonder if he's going
retiring.
to be I wonder if he's going to have like a monologue like Training Day in this movie.
And that he's going to be retiring very soon, apparently. Uh,
Yes, I did read that. Apparently, he's got a few things he wants to get done, and once he gets them done, that's it. It's done.
yeah, he's got Othello on Broadway starting in February. Then they're going to do an Othello movie. I
Hmm.
assume that movie would be in the vein of the tragedy of Macbeth that he did with Joel Cohen for Apple TV, where it feels very much like you're watching a stage play rather
Yeah.
than being cinematic. And then he's got, Black Panther 3. He's going to be in the new Antoine Fuqua movie for Netflix, where he's going to play Hannibal of Carthage, which is going to be awesome.
Mhm.
Might have to renew a monthly Netflix subscription just to watch that. Unless it gets a theatrical release, I'm definitely seeing that in theaters.
Well,
And then,
considering that we're pretty much right now counting the days until he finally turns in the towel, maybe we should review it when it comes out.
yeah. And then on stage, he'll be doing King Lear, which is one of his last projects as well. He's like, yeah, I don't need to do paycheck movies anymore. I just want to work with people I really like. But he's going to be 70 next month. And he's like, yeah, I'm kind of ready to retire. So,
Hey,
good
respect.
for
At
him.
least he knows when to stop.
Yeah, he's great. Hello, Affinity. Cheers.
Cheers. And at least as opposed to other actors, he knows when to say, "Hey, you know what? I think I've left my mark. We're good."
Yeah. And there is one other piece of Batman news related to the Matt Reeves Batman universe, but I think it'll be better to talk about that after we finish our review.
Oh yes, there is a lot to talk and there is a lot to speculate.
Yes, indeed.
Can I just say before we start that a few words were running through my head a few times watching this series. Do you remember the Pirates of the Caribbean, at least the initial trilogy, with Bill Nye as
Davy Jones.
Davy Jones, which to this day still holds up. Mwah.
Oh god,
Now that's what I call
CG
visual
is
effects. Like
perfect.
that is, we were spoiled with motion capture back then.
We had him on or not him, but the oh god, why am I blanking on his name? The guy who got the Oscar for that, not John Knoll, but Hal Hickel. We had
Yeah.
him on there for a watch along for our Star Wars group for Dead Man's Chest, and he brought up the Oscar and he was talking about that movie.
Oh, that's
And
great.
unfortunately, they didn't invite me on the video, but I was in the comments asking, because nobody was asking technical questions. I was fielding him a bunch of technical questions about it, because it's just, oh god, it holds up today. It's so gorgeous.
No,
So
yeah,
well done.
that scene with him playing organ. Oh my goodness, you can watch that over and over and dissect the hell out of it. But basically, the reason why I brought it up is because I'm reminded of at World's End in the third act when they're fighting on the ship and Jack Sparrow ends up on the Dutchman and Davy Jones and the crew turn around and he looks at them and he starts goading him. Well, looky here, boys, a lost bird that never learned to fly. And that line has stuck in my head after watching this episode. And it's pretty fitting, all things considered.
It is. So without further ado, let's review and spoil the hell out of the finale of The Penguin.
The title of this episode is A Great or Little Thing.
Yeah, that I forgot where they said they sourced that title from. Oh god, now it's kind of pissing me off.
I wouldn't be able to answer because I know they did a Penguin after show, but I skipped it because I'm like, I'm pretty sure everything that you guys had to say in this episode, you said it. I don't need to keep rehashing it.
Yeah. So the episode begins, interestingly enough, with it's easier to set up what it is afterwards. It's, Dr. Rush is using that EGM type device to keep, talking to Francis to find out, because Sophia wants to know what the deal was when Francis snapped at her in the last episode about, why didn't you go looking for my boys? And that kind of segues into this interesting flashback where she's supposed to be younger, but it's still the same actress, Deidre O'Connell, who plays the older Francis. And she's despondent at home. Oz is off somewhere, probably at school or something. And Rex Scalisi is there. And she's telling Rex, when you thought this family couldn't get any more dysfunctional after what we've seen in the first 7 episodes, they try and top themselves again. In which we find out that Frances has known all along that Oz killed her other sons, because she found a flashlight in his raincoat pocket, and that the police told her that when they found the boys, they had to pry the door open with a crowbar just to get it. She's like, no, he slammed that door shut on them and made sure it stayed shut. And that whole time we were sitting on that couch, and he looked outside that window, saw that rain, and knew my babies were drowning, and he did nothing. And she's basically trying to appeal to Rex to kill Oz. She just wants to get rid of him, but she's struggling with it, of course, because that's her last son. And Rex is like, well, hold on, if you nurture this, there could be he could have some really good traits in my line of work, because a lot of guys, they join me for, because they're greedy and they want to get paid, but the loyalty is something to look after. Maybe you should. And she's kind of nervous about it. And then that segues into the other side of that scene when Oz put the tray of food out for her and she opened the door wanting to go out dancing, except this time we realize it's later that same day and she's put on the dress and it's like, oh, it's not that she snapped. She's leading him on to take him to the club where Rex is, to give Rex the signal to go for a ride with him afterwards because Rex was going to, kill him. And she was all on board with this, except this time when they're playing the flashback, it's still the Deirdre O'Connell, the older actress, playing Frances.
Which fits because the doctor is still doing the psychological analysis to get her to spill the beans.
And she even sees Dr. Rush and Sophia at one point in the lounge in this pseudo flashback thing as she's telling the story. And it's only when Oz turns to her and says, I'm going to give you everything, Mom. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you got everything you ever wanted. And that's finally what changes her mind about dying. Not changes her mind necessarily entirely, but you could imagine it was like a give and take kind of thing where it's like, oh, maybe I'll kill him tomorrow, or maybe I'll wait. And it's like she just kept going on and on like this, probably trying to deal with it day for day until you get this bizarre relationship that they're in now. So it's not just that Penguin destroyed her by killing her sons. It's the fact that she knew he did this, which made it even more messed up. And the fact that Oz doesn't know this, but now Sophia and Dr. Rush know this.
Yeah, but it ain't that simple, is it? By the way, a bit of trivia. She's smoking her cigarette from a holder, which is the same way that classic Penguin used to do.
Yeah, she is. As you have in your avatar there.
Indeed. I chose this avatar specifically for this review, and we'll get to it soon.
Yeah, so then we jump back to the present day in which Vic arrives. We finally find out where Vic's been when Oz sent him out the window at the beginning of the 7th episode to go recruit an army. And he shows up with some of the other mob bosses. And by mob bosses, other than the triads who are like a big deal, there's a couple other groups of random, small-time drug dealers or whatever who have their own crews. And they show up in Crown Point to find that this massive explosion has happened, and realizing that it's the drug lab, the other bosses don't care anymore. They're like, hey, man, we didn't care about Oz. We care about the drugs. Who cares? And Vic kind of stands up for himself and insults the bosses, saying, wait, you want to let the Gigantes and the Maronis boss us around now? You want to go back to, shoveling their shit? And Zhao's driver, Link, a younger guy, comes over to Vic and just punches him really hard in the gut, which satisfies the other bosses. But then he whispers to Vic, he's like, kid, shut up. You gotta know when to not, you gotta know when to not talk. And it's like, oh, there's something going on here, but I'm not really sure what it is, like some kind of a connection. And the bosses leave.
The irony of telling Vic learning not to talk when the guy can barely get a sentence out.
Right. And that was another thing. It's like when he shouted at the bosses, he didn't stutter. He was like, we really want to eat some of their shit first. And it's like he's learning to find his confidence again.
Yeah.
Which is pretty neat. And then but then they ultimately ditch him, but we could see that there's something going on with that Link guy. But we're not sure yet. Meanwhile, Oz is taken to the Monroe Club, which I thought in the previous episode that it had been abandoned for a while, but it turns out no, it's just damage from the explosion because I guess it's nearby.
Yeah.
And so they have Oz and Frances duct taped to 2 different chairs, and the corrupt cop is outside taking drops, standing guard. And so Sophia's there with Dr. Rush and a couple goons, and she decides to tell Oz and Frances a story about how when she and Alberto were young, they found this bird nest. There was the alpha bird and the runt bird, and the mama bird took care of the alpha, but not the runt. And one day, Sophia, who was worried that the runt, something bad was going to happen to him, was shocked to see that the little runt bird viciously attacked the alpha and killed him and knocked him out of the nest. And that when the mama bird came back and saw what happened, she didn't care. And Frances has a hint of recognition because she knows what Sophia is talking about. But Oz is completely bewildered. Like, what are you talking about? What the hell is this with these stupid birds?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, this is so.
By the way, I've heard that story before.
Oh yeah.
I've heard it in different contexts, but
yeah,
I've heard this story before.
Yeah, it's like a variation of the cuckoo bird thing.
Yeah, this is what we call filicide.
Yeah, and so she basically cuts to the chase, and she wants Oz to admit it. And Oz like, "What are you talking about? You're crazy. What is it?" And and Sophia has Dr. Rush get like a pair of what is it, not pliers, but
Oh, the cigar
the
cut.
cigar cutter,
Yeah,
and slips it onto Francis's pinky and start cutting as Sophia's demanding. She's like, "Come on, Oz, just admit it." And Oz is just looking at his mother, pleading with her, and the look in his eyes and in his face, it looks like he's becoming a little kid again, like screaming for his mom and mom, don't help me. I'm just kind of, and she's like screaming for Oz to help her, and Sophia's like, "Come on, Oz, just admit it, just do it." And finally, this goes back and forth for a while until it finally reaches a head where, to Sophia's surprise, it's actually Francis who snaps first and just screams her lungs out at Oz that, "Hey, man, I know what you did. I've always known that you killed your brothers. I've known it." And Oz just tries to put it off as, "Oh, it's just you're confused, Ma." And
yeah,
he's just so angry. And Dr. Rush looks at Sophia, and Sophia's like, "No, it's okay." So he takes a cigar cutter away from her finger, and they untie her to let her get up from the chair. And she starts marching over to Oz, just screaming in his face, saying, "I hate you. I've always hated you. I've regretted being your mother. You're a monster. You always have been." And Oz is just kind of in absolute shock that she's saying this. And all of a sudden, that just segues into another dementia episode where she sees her two other sons soaking wet, and they eventually fade away. And she just has like a seizure and collapses, seemingly dead as a doornail.
yeah.
And that finally gets Oz angry enough that he's able to pull himself free from the duct tape, seize a gun from a thug, and fight his way out,
Yeah, he
taking his
does get
mom,
stabbed.
slinging her over his shoulder as he's going out the door.
His mom does stab him before she
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
collapses. Like, I think it was like too much for her and she just, broke right there. But man, this really kind of gives you a window into just how messed up the psychology is of these people in this room, especially not just mom, because she's had to shoulder this burden since day one. And it probably aided in her dementia for the most part. I mean, you can make the argument that all that guilt and all that psychological turmoil developed over time. I'm not saying that that's going to cause dementia
Well, it,
or
it
whatever,
certainly contributed to her
but
drinking.
it
And that's
exactly it's certainly considered with her deteriorating health over time. But then Oz, he knowing that something's going to happen, knowing that this might be the last time he might be alive, he still to the end is not going to admit what he did, whether it's because he's purposely being stubborn about it. Because at one point Sophia gets mad at him, like, "Oh my fucking god, will you freaking admit what you did? Your mom's about to die and you can't admit it." And I'm watching this, I'm thinking, I don't think Oz is ever going to admit it. I think he believes it himself that it was an accident.
Well, I don't think it's so much that he doesn't stubbornness. I think it's that he is afraid that his mother won't love him anymore, because he's been just campaigning his whole life for her approval, and he doesn't feel like he's gotten it. And again, like, he seemed almost like a little kid when he was freaking out that Sophia was going to harm her,
Oh
but he
yeah.
didn't want to get her to stop at the expense of losing her love.
Oh, and I understand that, and it's still within the comic book roots of the character loving his mother to the end of time. I mean, he adores her. He puts her on a pedestal. But here it's just like, man, either he's really afraid, like he just turned like 5 years old just there, or he's just not gonna budge. Because again, like you said, maybe he doesn't want to lose her love. But then the moment she
Well,
just tells him, I'm like, all right, man, come clean. She already knows.
well, I think it's because, like, he reverted like to a 5-year-old, because when she gets that glass bottle and breaks it, I mean, I thought they were going to do the thing from the Arkham City game where he's got the bottle sticking in his eye. Instead,
Yeah.
she shoves it into his gut, but
Hmm.
he's not mad at her for it. Like, he doesn't even care. Like, no sooner than he gets free of his bindings and shoots the thugs, he picks her up and slings her over his shoulder and is petrified and wants to get her to the hospital. Like, he doesn't have any animosity or
Oh
disdain
yeah.
for her stabbing him, because again, I think it's just that he was so petrified that she was no longer going to love him. That's why he couldn't admit it.
Yeah. Priorities, am I right?
Yeah, because the way he says to Sophia, "Don't touch her, don't touch her," and he's so
Yeah.
freaking out because it's almost like he didn't think it would get this far.
By the way, the next scene following this is one of my favorites of this episode.
Oh God, this is hilarious. Because
Like, it's like, oh my fucking god, that couldn't have been executed more perfectly.
yeah, so you have him, to Sophia's surprise, blasting his way out of here, which is ridiculous. Because how many times, Sophia, do you have to see this guy weasel his way out of something? And you had like one guard watching him. It's like, Really? When she's like, stop him, he didn't pull a gun. Yeah, whatever.
I
So
swear, I am convinced that the Spectre exists in this universe, and he's guiding Oz because he is one lucky son of a bitch. From the first
he is.
episode, it has been luck after luck after luck, and he is quick on his feet to take advantage.
Yeah. So we cut outside and we see that corrupt cop, the one who kidnapped the Maroni for Sophia and the one who kidnapped Oz. And of course, he's outside taking drops. And right when he finishes his drop, it's like, bam, his eyeball just blasts out of his head with a bullet as Oz has just shot him dead. He's just, and I love that Oz doesn't take the extra time. It's just like, oh yeah, bam. just
He just does it.
so perfect. Because you don't see him coming out to do, you don't, like you see him in the back with cameras out of focus when he's coming out the door, but I didn't think he was gonna. I figured, okay, so the cop's gonna be too busy getting high to
Yeah.
see Oz making his escape. But then no.
Or you would at least think that he would grab the hilt of the gun and hit him in the back of the head, which is something that you typically expect. But at this point, like, Oz is like, nah. Because in the previous episode, he gets whacked in the face by the same detective with a billy stick. So you're thinking, oh, yeah, he's probably going to whack him in the back with the hilt of the gun. Like, nope, you got a bullet.
Yep. And then he just throws his mom in the back seat of the car and takes off driving to the hospital. And I love how he's like, bleeding from the gut, but he makes sure that his mom gets help first. They're wheeling her away. Like, oh, we'll call you, sir, to see, how she's going to be. And he sneaks into a side closet and just gets like a staple gun and starts, stapling his gut together. It's like, oh God.
Well, it's still a modern setting. Whenever something like that happens, they have to alert the police, and he can't afford that right now.
Right. And then Vic shows up somehow, finding him at the hospital. And he's like, oh man, I did what you said. I got the armies together, but when they saw that the drugs were gone, they didn't care. They just said that all they cared about were the drugs and not you. I tried to change their mind, but they wouldn't listen. And Oz is understanding, and he's like, yeah, I get it's not your fault, kid. You still tried to come through, and that's what counts. And it's like, okay, you're seeing this relationship kind of build, and so you think, oh, okay, that's good. So Oz leaves, and he decides to. We find out later that there was more to this conversation between Oz and Vic. We don't realize that at the time.
Yeah.
But Oz leaves to go do something, and meanwhile, we cut back to Sophia, who's returned to the Falcone mansion. She's invited the Zao from the Triads and the same mobsters who bailed on Vic have shown up sitting in the big great room at the Falcone mansion. And she basically makes this offer, which Link calls out directly as being ridiculous, that she's basically going to leave Gotham, go to Italy or whatever, and be her own person, and surrender gift all of her territories and all of her supply and everything to whoever brings her Oz first. And when Link calls her out, which I'm surprised that Zao doesn't snap at Link for stepping out of turn by because he's just there as muscle, right? But when Link calls her out, Zao kind of gives Sophia this look like, yeah, why should we trust you? And she's like, look, I'm sick of this house, sick of this. I'm gonna make my own way now. I'm done playing my father's games, which is again an idea she got from Francis when Francis told her in captivity that, no, you think you're really different, but you're not. You just swapped one life for another version of the same thing. And so Sophia's like, serious. She's gonna get rid of all this. I don't want it anymore. So the gangsters accept. They leave, and Sophia proceeds to burn the mansion to the ground because she just doesn't. She just wants nothing to do with her family anymore. No more memories of that. Just destroy the Falcone name, because it is the Falcone mansion, not the Gigante mansion. Yeah. And she wants nothing to do with it.
Hey, at least you can claim the insurance.
Exactly. And now there won't be any, if there was going to be a continued investigation as to how the gas leak happened, there won't be one now.
Yeah. Although even so, that lieutenant is just like, oh, I see how it is. You think you could just burn the house and walk away? All right, I got your number, bitch.
God, that's funny. And granted,
I'm sorry, that voice. I just love that fucking voice.
Yeah. And granted, she doesn't burn the mansion until nightfall, but better just say it now. But
hey, you said the word nightfall.
So Oz, meanwhile, the errand he went out to run was going to City Hall, the same City Hall where we saw the thugs spray painting in the beginning of the movie. And you see some of the paint is still left on there. Some of it's been washed off. And he goes into City Hall, into the main rotunda there, and walks into the mayor. It says there's a placard that says Mayor-elect Bella Real, and he gets up there and sits in the mayor's seat. testing out the gavel, and Councilman Haiti comes in. The guy Oz previously threatened to force him to turn the power back on in Crown Point. And he's like, what are you doing here? You got to get out of here. And Oz basically tells him, hey, I could give you everything you want and more. He's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, Moroni's killed Alberto Falcone, and Sophia retaliated by killing the Moroni's or Moroni's wife and son. And they probably retaliated by killing everybody in the gas leak thing. And she's taken out. She's the one who sent the bomb and blew up Crown Point. And if you dig through the rubble, you will find her G-Wagon, and you will also find a bunch of dead Moroni's and Falcones, including Salvatore himself. You're welcome. And Haiti's not really impressed by this. He's like, it's a great story, Oz, but it ain't true. Is it like, how's it true? And he's like, no, you'll find the evidence when you dig through the rubble there. He's like, well, what do you want in exchange? He's like, well, I want a seat on the council. Maybe one of these days you might introduce me to the mayor. And he's testing out the gavel. He's like, yeah, it still works. And Councilman Haiti's like, well, what am I getting out of this? And he says, man, you are the hero who turned the power back on in Crown Point. You get all the credit for ending this decades-long gang war and getting that drug labs, all this gone. You can recapture the Hangman Locker. It's done. And Haiti kind of likes what Oz is selling. And he's like, yeah, if it turns out that way, man, maybe we got a deal. And I love the foreshadowing with Oz sitting in the mayor's. Like I was talking about, they're going back to the whole Batman Returns thing with the sewer killings in the previous episode. And now he's thinking about, sitting in the mayor's seat. We know what he's thinking about, because as Oz is leaving City Hall, he looks up and he sees Bella Real, and he's like envious. It's like, oh man, are they really going to set up a storyline where Oz might run for mayor? I mean,
well, in the Earth One books, he is the governor, or at least the mayor.
That's right.
The Jeff Johns run, he is actually in a political office. And unless I'm mistaken, during Tom King's run of Batman with the Booster Gold series, where they wanted to, it was a what if situation where Booster Gold gave Batman a gift, a wedding gift, because this was around the time where Batman and Catwoman were having their wedding storyline. And Booster Gold wanted to give Batman a universe where Martha and Thomas Wayne did not die in Crime Alley. Mm-hmm. And what happens? They don't die. They live a full life. They're adults. Bruce is not Batman. He's just Bruce Wayne. Oswald Cobblepot is governor, and he wants to be president of the United States. And Gotham is the worst city in all of the United States, if not the world. Mm. So food for thought. The Batman is needed.
Yeah, especially if you have the Penguin running for mayor. It's like, geez.
Oh, yeah. I'll keep tabs on this for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So Oz, as he's leaving City Hall, he sees Link and Zhao's other guys, and they show him that they got guns, and so they're like, come on, Oz. So they get him in the car, and they're driving off, and they call Sophia, who's just burned down the mansion, and she agrees to rendezvous with them in this municipal airport where she's got a Learjet ready to go. And Zhao's like, so you want to kill her here, or kill him here, or do you want to wait until you're over the Atlantic to see if penguins can fly? And Sophia should have been smarter about this, because again, it's like, how many times have you seen him escape from these seemingly inescapable situations, and you're watching him sitting there and he's not worried. He's giving her this look, and she takes way too long, like hesitates too long to figure out what it is. And then, shocker, Link pulls out his gun and kills his boss, Zhao. And Vic, who's also revealed to be there, pulls out his gun, and all the underlings just kill the bosses and kill the Sophia's security. And then Penguin gets a gun from Vic and pulls it on Sophia, and they're like, okay, let's go. And they get in a car, and of course he's going to be her driver again. And it's like, and we find out that Link had actually called Vic while Vic was parked outside City Hall waiting for Oz. And he's like, hey, we got to, and Link was he's the one who came up with the idea. Because it's like, yeah, do you want to spend the rest of your days, if you serve under Zhao, you know what you're going to get. You're just going to be that underling. Nothing's going to change. And yeah, Oz isn't trustworthy, but at least with Oz, we get change. Something, even if it isn't something we want, which is topical for sure. And so as Oz is driving Sophia wherever they're going, he's like, you really thought you were going to get away? She's like, well, I thought I was. And she strangely doesn't seem that upset about it. And Oz is trying to tell her that what you didn't understand is that people like you and your position's always looking down at people like me and brushing us aside like we're garbage and nothing. And that segues into a montage, very Godfather-esque, where we see the underlings killing all their bosses.
Yeah.
Because they're just now all going to pool their resources to work for the Penguin. And she's like,
Yeah.
oh, Oz, I knew that. I just, I didn't care. She tries to brush it off. It's like, no, but he got you,
By the way, this is some really heavy first world problems for Oz and the
Oh,
rest
yeah.
of the gang. It's just like, you're all fucking criminals. Get over yourselves. Who cares if they're looking down on you? You made this choice.
Exactly. And you're still getting paid. And it's like,
Yeah. Also, another
whatever.
trivia: the airport where they went is called Goodwin International Airport, which is an actual airport in Gotham City in the comics, and it's based on comic book writer and editor for both DC and Marvel Comics, Archie Goodwin. He also served as the editor for The Long Halloween.
Oh, okay. So it's an international airport. I would have thought that'd be a municipal one because, you're not going to have a gunfight out.
No, but if you know who you're paying, well,
yeah. So after we see this great montage of the underlings killing all their bosses, strangling one of them while they're at the punching bag, shooting another guy while he's in the bathroom looking at the mirror, and bashing another one upside the head with a dumbbell. It's like, oh, geez, this is vicious.
and then the lesbian motorcycle chick with the helmet, she just
the
went
helmet,
for
that
it.
was it, yeah.
She
And then the
just
other
went
guy
for it.
slashing his boss's throat inside the sauna.
Yeah.
And it's like, so all that happens, and eventually Oz parks the car by the waterfront by the bridge, and he marches her out there, and she thinks he's gonna kill her, and they're talking, and she doesn't seem to mind. She just is kind of resigned to it, and he wants her to turn around. I'm surprised that she actually listens to him by turning around instead of like, barking at him. Maybe she doesn't, want to give him the satisfaction. Who knows? But she turns around and just keeps mocking his mother. Like, oh, you could never please her. You're just, she's just all this kind of stuff. And as she's talking and just waiting, you have this brilliant shot where camera pans from Oz's face to him holding the gun over through the back of her head, and you see the out of focus lights almost looking like the smoke coming out of her mouth from what you expect is going to be the bullet. And it's brilliant. But then it doesn't happen. Instead, you hear all these police sirens and a helicopter beam spotlight shines on her. She turns around. Oz is gone. He's taken off in the car, and she's and then we have that same the police chief. I'm here. Oh, you're under arrest. And they round her up and take her away, and she gets returned to Arkham Asylum, which is worse than death for her.
And considering everything that she did, this is full circle, and she is going to wear that title as the Hangman very well.
Hello, Eugene Bird.
Why do you look so pensive, Eugene?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but we are talking about the Penguin finale, so spoilers.
Yeah. I got you, bitch! I got you!
So, Oz and Vic go back to the hospital. Frances has her own room, and Oz turns on the TV. He's like, look, Ma, I've been feeding them this line of bullshit, and they're eating it up. And we see that Councilman Haiti is hosting a press conference where he's blaming the Hangman for the bombing at Crown Point, and that the Hangman's been returned to Arkham. So that was pretty quick in digging up that evidence. And he's trying to get his mom to respond. He's like, come on, aren't you proud? Look what we did. And as they're popping out the champagne, and we see the monitors are still active, but she's not responding at all. So he has Vic, he's panicking, and he has Vic get a nurse, and she comes in, and she's like, oh, Mr. Cott, we were trying to get a hold of you, but we didn't know how have a number to call. And they're like, your mother suffered a severe stroke, and she's now in a vegetative state. And Oz is not having it. He's getting angry. He starts cussing her out. Get me a real doctor, that kind of stuff. And so she's like, I ain't got patience for this shit. So she walks away, and Oz just, in arguably one of my favorite scenes with the most pathos in the entire series, he gets down on his knees, clasping his hands, and has a complete breakdown beside his mother's bed. It's like, come on, Mom, just tell me once that you're proud of me. Just once, tell me that I did good, that I did a great job. And his acting is phenomenal here. He's just
hell yeah,
complete breakdown, and Vic puts his hand on his shoulder. And I mean, this is the clip you got to play if he's gonna win the Emmy for this. But I was even crying watching this. I'm like, I shouldn't be. This guy's a monster. He killed his brothers. And what's worse is that we found out from the flashbacks about that it's not like something bad happened to him to make him do that. He was just a psycho kid from the beginning. And it's like, I shouldn't feel bad for this guy, but I am. It's like, I
Yeah.
get it. I
You know
get
what
what.
happened? He ended up being the good son, and he can't reap the rewards because he can't. Like, he
Yeah.
pushed his mom to the brink, and now he's never going to hear those tiny little words he's always wanted to hear, that she's proud of him.
Yeah. And
It'd be sad if it weren't so funny.
yeah, he just, and it is kind of sad, but well, it's like I said, like it was really sad to me. And then at the end of this scene, he and Vic are,
Oh, Jesus Christ, this scene.
oh god, they're sitting out by the waterfront,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're sharing what little drink they have left, and Oz is trying to talk his way down from that threshold, and Vic is basically opens his soul to him and says that, you're like family to me, Oz. I really love you. And Oz is going on about, yeah, you've seen a lot from me, kid. You've seen me at my lowest point, and that family, that thing that I got, it's like a weakness in me. And he puts his arm around Vic while he's talking to him, and when he tells him that it's a weakness, he reaches in and throttles Vic. And
Yeah.
it's like, of all the ways you could have killed this kid, you're gonna strangle him. And the whole time he's doing it, he's like apologizing to Vic. Sorry, but I gotta do it, kid. And you see like Vic's kicking and sliding and trying to get away,
Oh,
trying to
he is
stop Oz,
fighting. He is
he's
trying to
fighting as
fight for
hard as
his
he
life.
can. Yeah, he's fighting for his life, but Oz just kills him. So
And you can see in his eyes that it's killing him, killing him. But
yeah,
it's
he
like,
says, I can't take you where I'm going. Not geographically, but like the things he intends to do. Because when
he's
you're sitting
doing
there
him
in
a
the wilderness,
favor. It
right?
is
Right, because right before he does it, he's like, man, I never did apologize to Ma. And Vic's like, apologize for what? And he realizes, oh yeah, Vic doesn't know I killed my brothers, and of course that's not something he could tell Vic because
no.
right, and that's why he says, I can't take you with me because of the things I'm going to do and why I'm going to do them. You're never going to be on board with this, and you've seen way too much, and that
Hmm.
you can't. And so he throttles him and kills him, and then to make it even more callous afterwards,
Oh yeah.
the look in his eyes when he's finishing is like he doesn't want to cry or feel bad about it. Like he's trying to restrain himself from feeling. But once Vic is dead, he just pulls the kid's wallet out, steals the money that he paid him, and takes out his ID and throws it in the harbor. And we watch his ID disappearing beneath the waves in the darkness because
Just
he's
like
just
his
going to be
brothers.
another dead kid. Nobody's going to care.
Yep. But when he threw it in the water, I found that to be poetic in
Mhm.
a dark way because his brothers drowned, so him throwing the ID in the water is almost a repeat of what happened. So yeah, it's a mercy killing, not because he's he's guilty of anything. He's an innocent. At the end of the day, he died an innocent because he was trying to find his way in life and he chose the wrong path, but he was being loyal. But like you said, kid, the things I'm gonna do, this is not for you. And he could have just let him go because he probably could have justified that Vic was going to keep everything tight-lipped, but
Yeah.
Oz is not stupid. He can't risk that.
He couldn't put him on. Yeah, because he knows his girlfriend went to California. He could have put him on a bus to California saying, kid, you got to leave now.
Yeah.
But he didn't. And
He needed to get on that damn bus, god damn it.
Eugene Bird says, just listening. I'm every bit as confused as I was with Fargo. I'm glad you're listening and enjoying.
Hey, no spaceship at this time.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like he can't. It's like, yeah, you should just put him on the bus to his girl. But he wouldn't probably go on the bus anyway because like Vic made that choice. He's like, no, I want to be here.
No, I
And
get it. I'm just saying, I'm going back to
no,
that
no, I know, I know.
episode. You
I'm
should
just
have
saying that.
gotten on that damn bus, Vic.
No, no, no. I'm explaining to the audience that he can't. It's like he wants to send him on the bus. It would be nice if he did, but Vic would probably not go anyway because he wants to be here.
Agreed.
And he, God, what was I going to say? So he's gonna, okay. So he throws the. Oh god, I forgot what I was going to say now.
Yeah, he takes the ID, he throws it into the harbor.
Oh,
Like,
that's right. He killed. Vic's not completely innocent because he did murder Squib or
yeah,
Squid,
no,
which he
yeah,
didn't have
but
to do.
that was gonna happen one way or the other. That was like a telltale gonna
Oh yeah, Squid
happen.
was going to die, but Vic didn't have to be the one to do it. He just
No, but that
chose to
was the
do it.
one thing that Vic needed in order to grow a pair.
Mm. Uh, and I did have a problem with this scene, and I'll get to it
Sure.
once we cover the final scene,
Yeah.
because that maybe will put it together more. But after this, we go to Arkham, and we see that Sophia's just despondent in her cell again. We see Dr. Rush has gotten his job back, and he brings her the mail, and he's like, well, it's the usual, fan mail, marriage proposals. But there's a letter here from a woman claiming to be her half sister, Selena Kyle. And then the Catwoman theme music kicks in. Sophia is very curious. She opens the letter, and we don't hear what it says, but we see Sophia starting to smile. And I bet you anything that Selena probably knows from her experiences with Falcone that, yeah, you're not the hangman. Like, he's the hangman. And I'd be very interested to see what type of olive branch that she's trying to extend to Sophia. But I take it
Maybe
that'll be
this
left.
is maybe this is a tease of the Arkham series that we always heard about, but might not happen. But maybe it might happen again, depending on
Yeah,
ratings.
because they said it was going to end up being part of the James Gunn universe, but given the success of the show, maybe not. Maybe they'll pivot back to
I
pitch
mean,
it
it
back
is
to
an
Reed.
excuse to bring back Sofia Gigante and then do something with Selena Kyle.
Yeah. Hey, Lemon Pie. Good evening to Cat Ernesto. Hello.
Yeah,
Thanks for
hello.
being here.
Imagine seeing Sophia interacting with Edward and
Yeah.
Joker.
Taylor Swift should have run as a third party. Hello, Matt G. Greetings.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Oh.
I know.
I was not gonna bring anything up regarding that. Thank you so much,
Uh,
Taylor.
but yeah, I'm very intrigued to see where that goes, and we'll get to that in a minute. But
Yeah.
the final scene, Oz, having taken Councilman Hades' advice, where you got to clean up your act, you got to look good, which informs us as to why he didn't kill Sophia. He left a fall guy there for Councilman Hades. And in a sense, she's not a complete fall guy because she is guilty of blowing up Crown Point, not just getting rid of the mobsters and blowing up the drug lab in the process, but killing other civilians and stuff. So, I mean, she kind of deserves to get caught. But so does Penguin. He's evil. But
Oh, everybody does.
yeah. So taking a cue from Councilman Hades, he has cleaned up his act. He's wearing a proper suit. He's got the gold waistcoat. He's got He's got a top hat, not a complete top hat, like a shorter one that he's got with him.
A believable one.
Yeah, and he's going to this big corner hotel or whatever with this big penthouse that he's got. He goes into one of the rooms that isn't really furnished yet, and it's got like a hospital bed with his mother in it, with the monitors next to her, and he has her positioned in front of the window overlooking the city. And he's like, "See, Ma, I told you I'd finally get you that penthouse. I finally did it." And you see a tear coming down, and it's like, oh God, you could read so much into that. It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
I think she's just in a living hell. She just resents everything and where she is. And Oz doesn't pick up on that at all. He's just like, yeah, Ma, I knew you'd be happy. And it's
Yeah,
like,
and then the following scene after that really drives
oh,
home the point of
mhm.
just how messed up the psychology, the Oediplex complex that is in Oz.
Well, that's the thing, is it's like he keeps her in this dark, secluded room overlooking the city, but then he goes into a much larger, much more welcoming type room. And you can tell he's got some boxes and stuff in there they're going to decorate. And we see Eve, who turned him down earlier, says, "I'm not going to go with you, Oz, and you've been jeopardizing my blah," which pissed him off uh, earlier in the season. And yet she's here now, wearing the same dress Francis wore to Monroe's that night when she took him Oz there to kill him.
Her
And
hair is in the same way.
her hair is dressed up in the same way. And Oz starts dancing with her, and he says, "I've done good, Ma. Haven't I done really good?" He says, "Oh yeah, I'm really proud of you, babe." And I'm like, oh my God, this is so
Yeah,
dark.
it is. It is.
And this is why I have a problem with the killing Vic. So he killed Vic because you know too much, you've seen too much, and it's primarily the family thing. I can't have that weakness, and I can't bring you with me because of this. Because look at everything he nearly lost just trying to save his mother. It's like, well, you clearly love Eve because of how upset you were when she didn't run away with you earlier in the season. You clearly have shown her that same vulnerability by very nature asking her to role play as your mom. She obviously is aware of your vulnerabilities and been exposed to that. So it's like, and again, the fact that Eve says, "I don't want to get dragged into your bullshit." Well, she's somebody you can't really trust with information either, and she's not an idiot. She's going to pay attention. So the fact that he is completely fine letting her live, oh, but not Vic. It's like, what do you
Well,
think? I thought that was a bit hypocritical because it seems like, based on the
it,
reasons he killed Vic, then he should really be killing Eve too, or at least not calling her again.
it is, but then I can also see it as Vic being a surrogate younger brother, and with Eve being his, at this point, blatantly a surrogate mother. Because, I mean, in in the real world, and I'm not saying that this is not impossible in comics, but in the real world, sometimes people hire sex workers in order to live a fantasy. Like they pay them for that, and this does fall in that fantasy of, hey, I'm going to pay you for the next hour to be my mom or something like that. So it does fit the the
Right.
expectation there. But because it's a surrogacy situation, it kind of stands to, I mean, if I'm justifying it, it kind of stands to reason that if she's going to be the surrogate mom, then he's not going to want to do that. But with Vic being the surrogate younger brother, then he's definitely going to do that.
Right. And it's just like,
But I can see the complaint. I can see the complaint of the hypocrisy. I see it totally. I guess maybe they didn't want to just write off the Eve character because even though Eve does know it, she is a different type of trust than Vic would be.
because I agree with you that it is a transactional thing. Sometimes you hire somebody and just pay them for that. But I was just thinking that because of that earlier scene in the season where he is having a tantrum and fuming that she won't go with him because after everything I've done for you, I love you, all this kind of stuff that I
Yeah,
thought was
but then we can all, but uh, all through that, I'm not gonna say that. Excuse me. I'm not gonna say that Eve is totally innocent here because Eve is also an opportunist, and not to say that sex workers are evil and
no,
corrupt, but she's not exactly an angel, so it makes sense for her to play along. I mean, she already has a relationship with him. It is financial stability for her, and he can provide her protection at the end of the day.
yeah,
So she's
uh,
able to bite that bullet and take her the opportunity where it stands because the only thing that she can't do is really cross him because he can understand why she turned on him because it was a risk and he can understand that. But in this case, now it's like, okay, I'll play along with your game.
mm. And Omega Swiper says Vic will wake and be Robin. Omega Swiper.
We'll need Superboy Prime to punch the multiverse in order for that to happen.
And Eugene says, "How much for you to tell me you were proud of me?"
Oh,
Exactly.
not enough. Trust me.
Yeah.
I've seen how you look under that suit, man. Not enough.
It's interesting that Oz didn't feel he was going to need Vic anymore after this, given how much Vic has been coming through for him.
Yeah.
But the point has also been raised that because Oz, or not, Oz basically unwittingly convinced all of the underlings to betray their bosses. Well, Vic is his underling. Is that part of it why he kills Vic as well, even though he didn't say so?
It
Uh,
could, but I don't know. Vic
yeah,
would
'cause I don't picture Vic as a boss, or that he'd want to be a boss.
no. I think he would be the most loyal underling to ever be an underling because
Yeah,
Vic is very different. Vic is one of those guys that needs a purpose, and it's been explained in this series over and over about people who had nowhere to go and they needed to find someone to guide them and stuff like that. That's all been there, but Vic is a special case. Vic really was rudderless. He had no North Star. Everything just went to shit. It drowned in the waters, literally and figuratively. So in this one, it's just like Vic is just going where the wave takes him.
yeah. And at the end of this, when they're dancing, Oz, he's standing there enjoying the fantasy of it, and Eve tells him, "You're at the top of the world, baby. Nothing can stop you now." And we have this beautiful shot as the camera swirls around, panning out of the windows to this huge room, and then lighting up the night sky, the bat signal.
Yes,
Like,
and cut
you
to
are
black right there.
and that's great because, and it tracks too, because the entire final episode took place on the same day as the bombing in Crown Point, which of course is something that Batman
It's really
will
gonna
have to
draw
deal
the
with.
attention.
Yes, it draws enough attention that Gordon is going to turn on that bat signal come nightfall. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, here we go. Because,
It's like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that there was a bombing in Crown Point, Sofia Gigante got arrested again for allegedly causing all of this. A lot of the crime bosses have been killed or found dead here and there or whatever. There has been a shift, and then what else is happening? Oh wait, the Falcone house burned down. What else did I miss? Wait, Oz did what? Okay, you better like that signal.
well, that's the thing. Because you know that, Oz's partnership with Councilman Haiti is hush hush.
Yeah.
You know that Oz is, again, he didn't take the fall for killing Mr. and Mrs. Maroney or any of the others. He's put it all on Sophia. And he's not taking the fall for killing Alberto either. He's putting that on the Maronis because Salvatore sort of was taking credit for it and bragging about it.
Yeah, but
But
all of
really,
this is coming. All of this is coming to Gordon, and Gordon is going to feed this information to Batman, and then he's
right?
going
But
to have
that's the
to
thing.
piece
But
it
the
together.
information is not painting Oz as the villain.
No, no,
So.
it's not. But you know, Batman. He's like, I don't believe in coincidences.
Oh, here we go. We got TJ Black says, when I found out Vic was a non-comic person, I knew he was dead, but they really gave you a false sense of hope. That's true, they did.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
and it's not the first time that non-comic book characters have been made specifically, kind of like an avatar for the audience. But this is one of those few, very few instances where a character that wasn't part of the comics doesn't make it beyond the first season.
right, and to your avatar even, I knew that whenever we get to because Reeves said in that this part one, the movie, and this season is very much the extended origin of classic Penguin that we know him as from the comics. And I don't picture Vic standing beside him while he's in that whole get up there running the Iceberg Lounge in his own like that would just be kind of weird.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you and I both accurately predicted that Vic was going to die by Penguin's hand, but we both thought it was probably going to be because he screwed up with Francis. Uh, I did not see it coming that it was going to be because Penguin thought that would be a weakness, especially this early in his, criminal takeover of a new empire that he's already getting rid of his best lieutenant, or his only lieutenant, I should say.
Yeah.
So that was a shock, and Omega Swiper follows up by saying Batman was watching Oz. I don't know if he was watching him, but Gordon certainly is like, we got a bunch of shit going on, Batman.
Yeah. Again, all of this pretty much has gone to Gordon, and Gordon is just like, all of this happened this quickly. Like, a gang war is one thing. It's a difference between a gang war and all of a sudden these guys start dropping like flies out of nowhere. That's the kind of thing that it's like, okay, I know somebody who can look into this further.
Yeah, and we have to keep in mind that Matt Reeves did say that you don't have to watch the show to understand part two. So it's like he says the transition will be seamless between the movie and the second movie. So much like Batman's closing narration in the first movie said, oh, there's going to be a power grab, and the camera was lingering on Penguin. So it would be a seamless transition for fans to see Penguin perhaps being the mob boss running the Iceberg Lounge, and they would expect him to be flaunting it with the coat and the hat and all of that now that he's the boss.
And then if he starts making friends, connections, rubbing elbows, because you know what attracts people like politicians and celebrities and people with very, very deep pockets to an iceberg lounge?
Hmm.
I'm just saying, you're dangling the fruit to attract attention, make those relationships. And then the day he wants to go into politics, he's going to have a lot of people that he can rely on, because not only will he might as well attract these people, but you know what he can also do? He can blackmail them.
Right. But like I was saying, so it's going to be a seamless transition.
This is just a little bit of additional dessert for an already rich dish.
Right. So it's like fans who don't watch the series will not be surprised to see him running a new Iceberg Lounge and being his own boss at the beginning of the next one, because they never introduced the extended Maroni Falcone clan in the movie. But the one thing which will be interesting to see how they play it into the beginning of part two will be Sophia, because she's not in the movie. She has quite an arc in the show, and Selena has reached out to her. So I wonder if they're going to say that in the beginning of part two, we're going to find out that, oh, I received a letter from my sister. Oh, I know you're not Are they going to rehash some of that a little bit? Throwaway lines of dialogue to establish who she is? Because I didn't think Sophia was going to make it out of the season, because this show was not something that they had on the docket as something they were planning from the beginning. Like, he said, he had a trilogy in mind, but it didn't sound like Penguin was something they were definitely going to do. And to introduce such a major character, I had a hard time believing that Sophia would be, because you already got the Penguin, who's going to be a big part of the sequel, which Reeves has already been hinting at.
Yeah.
We're going to have whoever the villain is, and then have Sophia there also in Arkham. It's like,
yeah, this kind of goes back to what I mentioned in the earlier reviews, that I think it's in the best interest for. I mean, if we get a season 2 of Penguin, I'm okay with that. I'm not gonna complain, but I think it would be better if this is an anthology series where the first series is Penguin, the second series can be titled something else like Selena Kyle or Catwoman, and then you can follow the storyline with her and Sophia. You can have an Arkham series if they choose to bring that back into the Matt Reeves Batman universe, or you can make another show and just keep expanding and expanding this whole world. And I think an anthology maxi series per series works because you get just an in between that is not necessarily needed to understand movie one, two, and three, but it's nice to just play around this playground.
Well, yeah, and to your point, I don't think Penguin would get a second season anyway because Reeves wants to expand the universe and just continuing his story. It's like, no, I think that'll lead us to the next bit. I'll get to the next big bit of news in a second here, but I'll just highlight TJ's comment. He also says there were that's the first one before that. He says the actor who plays Vic, I feel like he could be a part of a DC hero or villain or maybe Marvel, but he had a breakout. Colin gave him and give that man an Oscar for transforming into someone unnoticeable for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and he follows up by saying there were rumors that the girl who dresses up like his mom has the same last name as Clayface. She does, Eve
Oh
Carlo.
yeah, I brought that up in the first few ones, but she was a brand new character. She just happened to have a last name as Carlo, which I like to believe is just a nod.
Yeah, same with the Squid, but just a nod to the Squid character, even though he's not that guy. Maybe she's Clayface or family member. Oh yeah, so here's the thing that he mentions that I was also leading in for the next big piece of Batman news. There's been a rumor in the past week that thanks to the series, the Penguin series getting rave reviews and just having it, just the ratings just got higher and higher every week. Supposedly, the next anthology series is going to be a Joker series with Barry Keoghan set between parts 2 and 3 for the films, leading into part 3.
Mm.
That is the big rumor going around. I wouldn't be surprised if it's true because, again, given how great the Penguin series was and how the positive reception and all that, we think it'll do well at the Emmys next year, assuming everybody remembers it. I think that could be an interesting show.
I don't see why not. I mean,
Yeah,
it would be the most screen time ever dedicated to the Joker outside of the film series, and it gives you a lot of leeway into, at least for this version of the Joker, to establish an origin story. Maybe we might get a Red Hood background.
right. Or they might entertain the whole multiple choice thing, and you'll have different
Exactly.
origins in different episodes. Because we know from both the scene that he's in part 1 at the end of the movie in Arkham, as well as the deleted scene, that he's not wearing makeup. It's like he has green hair, messed up skin and face. It's like it seems like Axis Chemicals has something to do with why he looks the way he is. So I think you're right. It probably has a Red Hood type connection.
And we can see Paul Dano come back, and he's not and it's not beneath him to do a series.
Not at all, because they've been teasing even that at the end of the movie that Gotham loves a comeback story, which suggests that Reeves has something in mind.
And he's also a gifted
part,
writer, so I wouldn't be surprised if he actually writes some of the scripts in the writing room.
Yeah, and whether the comeback is related to Batman Part 3 or if it's going to be part of a series, we don't know. Again, this Joker series is just a rumor at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if that became a series. They kind of want people to be excited about the Joker character again after that's your Foley did.
Oh, yeah.
Even though we wouldn't be seeing it again for quite a while, because the next entry in this Reeves universe is going to be the Batman Part 2, slated to begin filming in April for an October 2nd, 2026 release. I take it with the failure of Joker Folie à Deux that Zaslav is going to make sure that they keep their feet to the fire in this one to make sure that no more delays. So I expect that we'll see the universe build out with other anthology series, but then taking place before Part 2.
And Part 3 can be the culmination of everything leading up to it, because again, the inmates are running the asylum, and I wouldn't be surprised if Part 3 is Batman stuck in Arkham and trying to fight his way out.
TJ says the Joker series with a rating like this could be gruesome and nasty. Yeah, because this was definitely an R-rated series, whereas the movie was PG-13.
And not only that, but this could also be an opportunity for Barry Keoghan to have monologue after monologue after monologue. Because if you've read any of the wonderful various Joker stories, especially Scott Snyder's run of the character, boy, does that clown love to talk.
He does. Uh, but man, I love with this Penguin show what his arc and how again they've layered this character so much. I never imagined that they would be leaning as much back into Batman Returns territory as much as they have, given they treated that movie like it was a fuck up, we didn't exist, blah blah blah. And yet it's like, no, we're gonna go back to him being from the sewers and killing kids in sewers and running for mayor and that kind of thing, or the implication that he might be running for mayor. Granted, that was done in other comics since then.
Yeah.
I assume
I
that's
mean,
partly where
but
they got
it's
the
pretty
idea.
much it, but it all comes full circle because it's pretty much the same story. It's just different interpretations. The only difference here is that
Right.
you don't have a toy brand deal with McDonald's and pissing off the Christian families.
So do we think that maybe in part two, given that Penguin seems to have his sights set on City Hall, that maybe, like you said, you could be seeing a reinterpretation of part of the Batman Returns storyline where the Penguin, responsible for some type of havoc that forces a recall election?
It's very likely. But
Yeah.
again, it's a matter of how much are they going to use it, because if he's going to be a big part of part two, then it's just a matter of, like I said earlier, if he's going to have the iceberg launch, if he's going to have the debonair persona with the top hat, with the coat, with the cigars and everything, then he is going to need to rub elbows with politicians and celebrities to deepen his pockets in order to make a bid for
Well,
mayor.
I assume they'll have already done that because, as they showed, Councilman Haiti seized upon that offer pretty quickly by arranging that press conference and all of that. So,
And then Bella Royale is one of those things where it's like, what are we going to be seeing from her? Will one of the series be about the politics in Gotham?
right. And we know that the movie there's going to be a time jump going into the movie, so it's not going to pick up with Gordon Batman showing up at that bat signal at the end of the show.
But he
But
will be paying
also,
attention.
right. But also, Reeves said that when part two begins, Batman will already be in the midst of whatever the new investigation is,
Hmm.
which I thought was okay. That's kind of surprising. We'll see if they're gonna
Yeah.
if that's gonna be I love the idea that it's gonna be another detective story. Hopefully, he's a better detective this time. I expect him to be more
Well, he
Bruce
should be,
Wayne.
because this would be year 4 for him at this point.
Oh, for sure. TJ follows up, says, "Yeah, Joker 2 is example of how you got to hire a guy who cares about source material. Nobody should be hired if you're not using any source material." Uh, I
It
mean, you
depends. It really depends, because I've seen a lot of people do things without paying attention to source material and they make something very brilliant. But I think in Todd Phillips' case, it was more of a, I am so pissed off this movie made money. I'm going to break it down.
well, it was also because Phillips said multiple times on the press junket for the first one that they don't want to do a sequel. So it's like Warner Brothers trying to throw him under the bus and put it all on him. It's like, dude, you guys, you're the ones who pushed him into doing this. He told you he didn't want to do it, and it's like he's like, no, there's no more story. It's a one-off, and it's like, well, you got what you asked for. He told you there was nothing
Yeah.
else story to tell. It's like, eh.
I think it's also fair to say that in the history of Hollywood, people say that, but then you give them a big enough check and they'll change their tune. But in this case, I'm like, oh, he didn't change his
True.
tune. He wanted to just, all right, I'll take the money, but I'm still going to fuck it up.
Well, it's like, oh yeah, I'll take the money, but there's nothing else I have to tell. Kind of like Christopher
Yeah.
Nolan.
Now
Apparently,
that's what I call a pie in the face.
yeah, apparently Zaslav tried to extend an olive branch to Nolan by paying him, even though it wasn't Zaslav's fault because it was a previous regime who did all the stuff with the HBO Max
But
crap.
it makes sense. It makes
Right.
sense.
Zaslav offered Nolan some of his money that he forego on Tenet as a peace offering, and Nolan's like, "Great, I'll take the money." But then he turned around and signed a deal for Universal for whatever his next film is.
Yeah.
Uh,
But at the very least,
yeah,
Nolan will remember, okay, I get it, but I'm going to work with them for now.
yeah. But apparently they've had meetings. He's had a meeting with Zaslav before, so
Yeah, it's
since
not the
that
end of the
all went
world.
down,
Never
so
say never. Never say
right.
never.
So TJ says, with Penguin being a hit or being in a court of owls is the perfect segue. Yeah, a lot of people have been thinking about Court of Owls.
A
Reeves
little
said
on
the
the
whole theme
nose,
of this
but okay.
trilogy. Yeah, Reeves said the whole theme of this trilogy is going to be corruption and government corruption, all that. I admit, I thought it would be odd that there was no hint of the Court of Owls in the first movie. It was just like it felt like a small cabal of people taking advantage of the renewal fund, but apparently there might be a lot more if it's the Court of Owls comes into play.
Yeah, but the Court of Owls doesn't need the renewal fund. Those people are the definition of old money.
That's true.
And
I
again,
could see them
the
adapting that story. If the rumors of Mr. Freeze are true, I could see them adapting that story where Freeze is used to help with the
yeah.
Talons.
But the thing is that this is my thing with the Court of Owls. Yes, they were introduced in the New 52 when they rebooted the whole thing, but how amazing would it be if you have a veteran seasoned Batman, right? He's been touring Gotham for a long time, fighting crime for who knows how many years. He's had multiple Robins, he's had multiple encounters with who knows what type of villain. And then he comes across the Court of Owls. And in the entire time he's been living, breathing, and fighting for the city, he is just now finding out that they exist. And he knows everything about Gotham. So the fact that he doesn't know about them, oh my god, the potential for that.
Oh, I can see him forging a partnership with Penguin to take them down because that's mutually beneficial for both.
Oh hell yeah. I
Like,
mean,
imagine how Penguin can capitalize that. That would be the basis for a recall election against the mayor. Oh, look at all these corrupt fuckers out there, and forcing her out and running and taking her place.
yeah. The last thing I'll say about what I would love to see in part two of the Batman about, Penguin and his political aspirations, I can totally see a scene where Batman visits him at his new casino, Iceberg Lounge, and he's in his office and he starts talking about everything that happened leading up to him getting into this point, and then you can see him saying that, and all of a sudden, everything that I'm doing here, all my investigation leads to one person, and that's you. And I can totally see Penguin going, that's a fascinating theory you got there, Batman. Too bad it's not true. And then you can see Batman going like, I may not be able to prove it, but I'm going to keep my eye on you. That would be perfect. If anybody who's ever read a comic between these two, that would be the most perfect scene you can have with them. But again, I'm a dreamer when it comes to this shit.
Oh, hello. Welcome to the show, Victor Patino. This Joker 2 is a genius portrayal of how society neglects mental illness. I kind of felt that the first movie already did that pretty well. The second movie shows how they're mistreated in when he's in prison or whatever. But I didn't feel the second movie really had enough new to say about mental illness to be a movie about that, and it didn't really have enough to say about him as Joker. And Harley Quinn was not sharing his delusion like the title suggested. So so I just thought it was kind of an addendum. Like at the end, you write a long letter, and then, oh, by the way, P.S. This happened.
Oh, by the
But yeah,
way,
to
we
each their own.
forgot to actually make a movie here.
Right. But yeah, to
Yeah.
each their own. That's great.
No, no, hey, there are some people that actually like it, and that's perfectly fine. But
Absolutely. Because I'd say that Joaquin Phoenix still gave a really great performance
oh
for sure.
hell yeah! That is one thing
Absolutely.
that I am not going to deny from this movie. The movie looked great. Cinematography was fantastic. Performances were great. They were doing their damn best to make this as good as it
Now,
was.
I know that he already won an Oscar for playing the role once, but I wonder if the Oscars weren't so much a popularity contest. Like if people actually liked this movie a lot more, if you would have chances to get nominated again. Uh,
Maybe not for Penguin Folie à Deux, maybe for something else. Does he have anything else coming out this year?
I don't know, but I'm trying to remember. Did Pacino get nominated for both Godfather 1 and 2? Maybe.
Maybe.
I think it might. I think it's happened before where the same actor gets nominated twice for the same role. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but is
Tell
that
us in the
a
comments if
but
anybody knows.
would that be a case that the movie has to be good to get the nomination?
Well, I would say yes because again, the Oscars are very much a popularity contest.
Yes, but but would it would it run into those situations where it gets nominated because it's who you know, less about actual,
Well, I think it has to also do with how many people actually saw the movie.
which
Uh,
not a lot.
Not a lot, and we know
Although
that
a
a lot of
lot
the
was
voters.
writing on it in the marketing, that's for sure.
We know that a lot of the Academy voters don't actually watch all the stuff that they're supposed to watch before they vote. And we know that Joaquin Phoenix is not really in on the Hollywood scene and all that stuff. I was surprised that they welcomed him back in to give him an award for Joker in 2019. I don't think they'd maybe have done it again.
I think it'll also play into the fact that the studio also has to push the movie to get awards
Yeah.
consideration. And I don't see
Oh, I agree 100%, Eugene Bird. Nobody does watch award shows anymore. That's why Oscars keep trying to change shit up every year. But I meant like the people who vote at the Oscars are still there. They're the ones at least watching and taking interest in it. Uh, which is more pertinent to what we're talking about in terms of whether you would get nominated or not.
yeah.
And we've heard from people that Don't let any actor tell you different when they say it's about the work. It's like, no, everybody wants that Oscar all the time.
And the thing is that once you get that Oscar, you pretty much just wrote yourself a blank check.
Yeah. TJ says, with Reeves' grounded Batman universe, how do you think a Mr. Freeze or a Clayface, Poison Ivy, Ra's al Ghul, who does that work?
Well, I doubt we're gonna get a Ra's al Ghul this
No,
time
they did him
around.
twice already for the
Poison
Dark
Ivy
Knight.
will most likely be in the James Gunn Batman Brave and the Bold world because that's going to be more fantastical. Clayface, I can see it happening by way of the Elephant Man, but that's really going to be pushing it to the limit.
Or if they go with the original version of Clayface, who's like a master of disguise.
Yes, but again, it has to be. We really need to see how he's going to adapt Victor Freeze.
Yeah, because he said that he said that somebody asked him, he's like, no, the rumors of Gentleman Ghost. He's like, no, that there will not be a Gentleman Ghost because that's too fantastical. He's literally a ghost.
Yeah,
Even though there's another version of that character who's not a ghost. But anyway, he's like, no, that's too fantastical. But he says, we're going to push it to the edge of the fantastical. Well, the first movie was very grounded. Riddler was not fantastical at all. So to say that they're going to push it when he's talking about villains to the edge of fantastical makes me think it could be somebody like Freeze. As for how you do that, one, you can have him literally be a cold-blooded person.
yeah,
And you could also have him work with cryogenics. And
yeah.
like I said, maybe it has something to do with the talons, not actual zombies, because that would be too far, but something else. Like
Yeah.
maybe,
Again, it is very possible to do it, but it's very different than dealing with cryogenics than someone whose face is melting off
like
and
for
being
instance,
molded.
to your point about the Court of Owls being old money, maybe they're financing taking care of Nora for him while he's doing his research, and in exchange, help us with whatever
Oh,
this
I can totally see that. That's viable.
Yeah, that could be because that's hit in some of the stories. Now, I would personally love to see how Mister Freeze would work in a like. What is his appearance like? It's not like he's going to walk around with a freeze gun. You know, it's like what's that going to be?
He
But
probably
again, it
doesn't
might not be him at all.
he
It
probably
could be
doesn't get it. He probably doesn't get a lot of outside time because of his molecular structure.
right, or it might be staring us in the face right now. Maybe the villain is just the Penguin.
Yeah.
Uh,
But we've been getting a lot of underground stuff in Penguin. I think we've been spoiled. We haven't seen the sunlight so much. That's why everybody's so
uh,
fucking crazy. They don't have enough vitamin D.
TJ says, "Is Mister Freeze going to be a guy who drops his victims in ice lakes or cryobaths?" I don't think they would go with another serial killer angle because they just did that with the Riddler. I mean, granted, Riddler wasn't a serial killer in the
It
traditional sense,
doesn't
but
it doesn't fit him. It you would have to rework the character from the ground up to make him a serial killer.
right, because there's two versions of Freeze. There's the original version who was just a thief and a robber who had like an ice themed gimmick. Like, he had a lot of guys, villains like that back in the day. But then when the Heart of Ice storyline that came along, that changed everything and everybody loved it. And it would be more, I think it would be more along the lines of that. And it works perfectly because it's like Bruce is like, look, Freeze, I became practically a monster and flooded this city unintentionally, albeit, but I created all of that because I was obsessed with then just getting something back that I lost. It's not too late for you. You're doing everything because you're trying to hold on to Nora, or at least
Yeah.
practically a memory of her, but she's gone. Um,
Victor is nothing without his motivation, and his motivation is Nora. You take away Nora, then he's just going to be a one-note villain.
Now, granted, with the Penguin series, they almost did something similar where now that Penguin's mother is in a vegetative state, kind of like Nora, just frozen. It's like, would they redo that with Freeze and have Nora there when you just established a similar relationship going forward with Penguin and his mother? Maybe, maybe not. Granted, with Nora, it's a wife,
But
but
that could,
still.
but that could be a recurring theme, especially in this version of DC Comics, because you know how in the Marvel universe it was always about the fathers and sons.
Mhm.
Here it can be about the sons and the mothers. You have Penguin and his mom. You can have Victor Freeze and his and his wife, and you can kind of make a little bit of a surrogacy with a mom angle. Like if they're gonna go with the traditional, and you and I discussed this before. We had this conversation. It could be either Nora Freeze, traditional wife, girlfriend, or it could be maybe Nora's not the girlfriend or the wife. It could be the mother. It could be somebody else entirely that he is attached to, and it's like a maternal thing that he needs in his life, and he's gonna fight tooth and nail to reclaim it and save it. And then Batman, Bruce Wayne, it has been confirmed not once, not twice, but three times that his mother in the comics has psychological issues, and even in the movies, which kind of leads into why, after what happened in Crime Alley, and after he saw the bat in the comics, which inspired him to be Batman, it ties, it fits.
Mm,
That could be the recurring theme in this whole franchise, the psychology and how they're tethered to the maternal instinct, and when nurture and nature takes over.
that's a good idea. And I do
Jesus Christ,
wonder,
that was beautiful.
with the way this is going, with our theories of part 2 and everything like that, because he says that Batman's story is only going to have 3 films, which is surprising because he says he wants to build out this universe with other shows, and it's like, how far does that go if you're only going to do 3 movies with Batman?
I want every movie to be 3 hours at this point.
Oh yeah, I don't listen to the people complaining about the runtime. Those are, people who can't have, a
I
lot of
want
people
them
say,
to be 3 hours because he can pack so much in there, and whatever he cannot pack in there, put in the shows.
yeah, and it's like, yeah, people who complaining about that have no attention span. Like, oh, they'll sit there and watch Dune for 2 hours 45 minutes, look at a sand and not complain. But
Yeah,
oh god, Batman for hours. It's like, come on.
it's all
Uh,
about pacing, people.
yeah. TJ follows up, says maybe the people who made his wife sick as a way to produce an ice product, and he uses a product that frees people from the inside out, and he uses that to attack the people who made Nora sick. Yeah, it could be another a revenge story. That
Yeah,
you never know, because those are the types of things that drive them. Because Penguin at the heart of it is what Batman could, or what Bruce Wayne could be if he used all his money and influence for evil. So I think we're going to see that with Penguin's, future connections and his power, whereas the Riddler was just a guy responding to the pure vigilanteism and of Batman. And granted, Riddler felt like his attacks were also vengeance based, so maybe they wouldn't make Freeze so vengeance based. But I think Freeze would work because, again, each Batman villain is in some way a reflection of a darker version of Batman.
yeah,
So, yeah, Freeze again trying to doing terrible things to try and save his wife who he doesn't want to lose. Whereas Batman's like, look, I'm doing the things I'm doing so other people don't lose him and not becoming a
yeah,
monster over it.
yeah. If Poison Ivy is lust, then Victor Freeze is love, and they're
Yeah.
both tragic.
TJ says, I'm trying to think for a grounded standpoint. That's why we're not writers. Oh, I think we could write pretty good stuff
No,
here,
I
TJ.
mean that's the whole reason why writers have say these things out loud, because you're trying to brainstorm, okay, how can we make this happen, but at the same time, this is the playground, these are the lines,
Yeah.
we cannot pass these lines. Hell, I can make an argument that you can make the freeze gun in the Matt Reeves universe by using a liquid nitrogen based weapon, but you have to sell the fact that, well, it can't just be a gas, it actually be a beam or something. Maybe you can use one of those like water hoses that if you make the pressure strong enough, it can actually cut through steel
Mhm.
and bedrock. You can do that with liquid nitrogen, and there's your freeze gun right there.
And I like these ideas, TJ. I love them. But we 3 of us could all write a great Batman story for
Hell, you
sure.
should go listen to our review when we touched on all those episodes of Victor Freeze. In real time, I came up with a better storyline for an episode than what we've had in the TV shows.
Mm, that's
So
right.
yeah, it is possible. Like, it's not impossible. It's that you really, really need to brainstorm. It's
Maybe try.
I think when Collider Live was still around, they brought in a guy from MIT, and they were pretty much having like a very techno babble science mumbo jumbo conversation. And because a lot of the guys on Collider Live, including Christian Harloff at the time, are Star Wars fans. They were asking him about, is it possible to make a lightsaber in by today's standards? And the guy said, well, it's not that you're asking, can we make a lightsaber? The question you should be asking is, what does it take to make a lightsaber? So if you ask it that way, you're not asking how to build one from the ground up. You're asking, okay, how does it work, and how can we do it in the reverse? So if
Mm,
you look at it from the reverse standpoint, and at that point, then you're actually using an equation, and you're pretty much just breaking it down to the smallest detail. And then you can have the idea, okay, well, if we're going to make a lightsaber, then in order for us to make one, technically speaking, realistically speaking, you cannot have a beam that's just going to shoot out and stop right there, because in reality, a beam is going to keep going and going and going and going. So you have to make an apparatus to stop the beam right at the hilt.
Mm. TJ says maybe cryo bombs too.
Hey,
Yeah.
we got water bombs in Wakanda forever. Explain to me how they can fit so much water in there.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I know Wakandan tech.
Interesting. Yeah, he says your stuff there is interesting.
Yes, I respect the meme very well.
Yeah, so
Well, this
I'm
has
not
been
surprised
wonderful.
at the amount of people of the crime families all getting wiped out in this series. Is like, yeah, we got to introduce a bunch of guys we got to get rid of because they can't be in the next movie because you need that seamless transition again, with the exception of Sophia, which I'm very curious as to how she's going to figure into whatever they do for the sequels. And it's a shame because the way they're setting this up seems like, man, they're setting up what could be a future of a bunch of Batman movies rather than just two, or two more. So that'd be great.
Yeah.
Can't wait for the movie. We should probably be learning more. If they do stick to schedules, start filming in April, we should learn casting news in the coming months.
Yeah. You know what I'm more curious about? I want to see if he's going to have the batarangs and everything else.
Mm. Well, he did
But
have
yeah.
your battering in the first one.
Well, he had the one in the chest, but he's not throwing them like ninja stars. That's what I want to see.
Oh,
Because I'm curious to see what the new bat suit is going to look like. Because knowing Warner Brothers, they want to sell toys, so they're going to have the new bat suit in every movie.
yeah. And maybe
But I do like the novelty of the gun that killed his parents being the bat symbol on his chest.
that would be cool if they went with that idea,
Yeah.
or if that's what it is.
No, I think that's technically what it is.
Oh,
I
okay.
think Kevin Smith talked about it because he did write for a Batman anniversary issue that's why he has the the bat symbol, that he pretty much melted the gun and used it as a metal plate for the chest where the bat emblem is.
Mm.
And you know the reason why it's yellow? In the comics, they explain that the reason that I think Gordon is having a conversation with Batman about, you know what, I think I figured out why you have that symbol on your chest and why you choose the color yellow. Because it's a target. No matter when they're shooting at you, they're always aiming at that and not at anything else.
Mm. TJ says this is the format that superhero franchises should take notes. Cough, cough. Marvel.
Well, this is also how you write a show and how you develop characters. Cough, cough,
Yes.
Marvel.
And Lucasfilm.
Ask me if I finished watching Agatha all along.
No,
No.
I haven't started yet.
I don't even want to finish it because I know it's whatever.
Mm.
I know we're getting Ironheart and Wonder Man and I don't know what else, but I'm like, you've already shown you really can't write yourself out of a paper bag at this point.
Yeah, but this is, like I said, this is what everybody in these superhero, comic book genre need to be watching right now. This is how you write characters. This is how you layer it. This is how you build empathy and sympathy with your audience, even for evil characters.
Yeah.
Not that every
And you know
character
what? Even though we know who the Penguin is just by generational exposure, this show, you can argue, is a risk. They took
Yeah.
a lot of risk to bring this to life, and this could have blown up in their face, and it didn't because they took the risk, but they actually believed in what they had, and they went for it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, a lot of people could have rejected everything that happened, especially in the finale that we just discussed with how he views his mother and how freaking sick it is that he is keeping her sequestered in his tower with no, like, I get that he's gonna get around the clock care, but I'm just like, okay, I get that you're keeping her there and you gave her the view, but where's the nurse? You can't just leave her there alone.
Yeah.
But this has been wonderful. This has been great. Who knows what the next show you and I are going to co-op here, but this has been a good vehicle for us to just go ham.
It is, and if we want, since this is Capes, Cowls, and Crusaders, we could always pick a Batman graphic novel to read and review that each week. We do what we want.
Oh yeah, I got some back issues. We can revisit some old one. We can go. You know what? Speaking of the Court of Owls, we can go back to issue #1 of the New 52 and break that down.
Yeah, we could start moving through the whole New 52 and up to through the Snyder run, the King run, and
Yeah.
beyond.
Yeah.
Let's see. TJ says the format showcases a person to set up a movie and you don't make every villain anti-hero. That's why Oz killing Vic, who we love, makes him unlikable. Yeah.
You okay there,
Yeah.
Beck? You need a new keyboard? You need a new keyboard? I can help you. Can
Yeah.
we start a fund for Beck?
Unlikable. Yeah. So I think you're saying that we like don't make every villain an anti-hero. That's why Oz
Yeah.
killing Vic. That's why we love him because he's unlikable. Yeah, he's not. It's like you could feel empathy for Penguin sometimes. You could even, but with the flashback, you realize that it's not that he became a monster is the way people are picking up. It's like no, he was just needy psycho kid, and yeah, people kept picking on him forever when he was in this criminal organization, which is why you kind of root for him to screw all those guys over in the show. But yeah, make no mistake, he's still evil and is definitely not trustworthy. Like everybody said throughout the show, don't trust the Penguin, and we see why.
Yeah.
No, TJ thought that was really funny when you said you could help him out with the keyboard.
Hey, I've been trying to help everybody out. We have a show here. We can start a fund.
Yeah, so this was a fantastic series. I didn't miss Batman not being here. Of course, I love the new Batman. I'd love to see him there, but I think it would have been underwhelming or disappointing if Batman came in to steal Penguin's thunder at the end of his series. It's like, no, you needed Penguin to solve this. And how fitting that his method of solving it is to try and bulldoze his way into a more legitimate world with the politicians and that kind of thing.
It's always that thing with a lot of criminals. They always at some point have this aspiration of going legit. And it's kind of sad because you would think that that's what they would have done from the get-go, but because they were constantly being, woe is me, now that they are in a position to negotiate, now they want to go legit.
Mm-hmm.
And this hubris of wanting to sweep it under the rug as if it's never going to bite them in the ass. But since the other guy brought it up a few minutes ago, we elected a convict into the highest office of the land. So what the fuck do I know?
Well, with Penguin, I don't think it's him wanting to go legitimate. He just, again, it's like that fantasy he had about Rex Scalisi. He wanted to be that guy that the people would build floats of and would remember and would love.
Yeah. Also, I think the next Daredevil show is gonna have Kingpin in office as well. So it's going around. People we're electing criminals into office,
Yeah, that's for sure.
and then the pedophile is gonna be the AG. Okay, everybody, this has been our review. Before I go on a rant that nobody wants to hear.
All right. Yeah, so we might be back with more comic reviews. But we'll see where that goes. But until next time. Oh yeah, what do we give the rating for this series out of 10? How many batarangs do we give it?
With the exception of that one episode that wasn't exactly the best, even though I get what they were going for, I give it a solid 9.
I do too. I give
This
it
is
9
9
batarangs.
batarangs. 999.
999. All right.
Oh, before we go, what does the Fantasmagorium show have coming up?
We will have a double review of Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein tomorrow night.
Nice. I won't be there, but I hope you all have fun.
We will. So, yeah. Until next time, I'm Kat Ernesto.
All right. I'm still floating.
See ya.